I made a pretty sizable investment with Cammy.
An investment you'll lose.
If you lose this, the thing you love the most, that's the first thing I'll take.
So I just watched the Season 3 trailer, and I genuinely had to pause it, rewind it, and watch it again, because I could not believe what I was seeing. Cammy is begging Tommy, the same woman who fired him like he was nothing, the same woman who called Nate right after and tried to offer him Tommy's job like it was just another Tuesday, the same woman who pushed every single person away from her until she had absolutely no one left standing beside her. That woman is now on the other side of the table, and Tommy is the one holding all the cards. I don't know about you, but I have been waiting for this moment since the second that firing happened, and Season 3 is not wasting any time getting into it. So buckle up, because we have a lot to talk about. Let's be real for a second. Nobody should be surprised that Cammy ended up in this position, because if you paid attention to Season 2, you could see this coming from a mile away. She spent the entire season making one bad decision after another, and every single time someone tried to pull her back from the edge, she pushed them away harder. Tommy tried, Nate tried, even Cooper, in his own way, tried to make her see what was happening. But Cammy was so locked into this idea of proving herself, of showing the world that she wasn't just Monty's widow, that she couldn't hear any of it. And that's what makes her situation in Season 3 so painful to watch, because it didn't have to be this way. She had every resource, every connection, every opportunity to make MTech's work. She had Tommy, who is honestly one of the smartest and most capable people in that entire world. She had Nate, who knows the finances better than anyone. She had Galino's support, which, let's be honest, is not something you just throw away. And she had the respect of people who had worked alongside Monty for years and were willing to give her a real chance. But she burned every single one of those bridges, one by one, until there was nothing left. And now, standing in the wreckage of everything she destroyed, she's realizing what the rest of us already knew. Losing Tommy wasn't just losing an employee. It was losing the entire foundation that MTech was built on. Because here's the thing about Tommy that Cammy never fully understood. Or maybe she understood it and just refused to admit it. Tommy doesn't just manage problems. He is the reason problems get solved. He's the guy who walks into a room where everything is falling apart and somehow walks out with a deal on the table. He's the guy who knows which fights to pick, which people to trust, and which situations are about to explode before anyone else even smells the smoke. Monty knew that. Galino definitely knows that. And now, with CTT up and running and Galino's $44 million already in motion, the entire industry is starting to see it too. So when the trailer shows us Cammy reaching out to Tommy, it's not just a dramatic moment. It's the moment where she finally has to admit out loud what she's been refusing to admit to herself for an entire season. That without Tommy, she's not running a company. She's just surviving one, and barely at that. Now, those mysterious documents she found at the end of Season 2, the ones with no electronic record, the ones that Monty went out of his way to hide from everyone, including her, those are going to be a massive part of why she's so desperate right now. Because whatever is in those papers, it's clearly something she cannot handle alone. Nate told her to dig deeper, to find out why Monty hid them in the first place. And I think what she found when she did that digging is exactly what sent her running back to Tommy. Think about it. Monty was not a careless man. He didn't hide things by accident. If he kept those documents off the electronic record, it means he knew they were dangerous. It means he was protecting someone, or protecting himself, or maybe both. And now, Cammy is sitting on top of whatever that secret is, with no legal backing, no financial muscle, no operational support, and a brand new rival in CTT who just happens to be led by the one man who knew Monty better than almost anyone. She is completely exposed, and the trailer is making it very clear that she knows it. Now let's talk about Tommy, because honestly, this is the part of the trailer that got me the most excited. CTT is not just a new company, it's a statement. When Tommy walked into that meeting with Galino and walked out with $44 million, that wasn't luck. That was years of built-up credibility, years of doing the right thing even when it cost him, years of being the guy who showed up and delivered no matter what. And Galino, who is nobody's fool, recognized exactly what he was investing in. He wasn't just buying into a business idea, he was buying into Tommy. And that distinction matters enormously going into Season 3, because it means that the pressure on Tommy is not just financial, it's personal. Galino made that investment based on who Tommy is, and if Tommy ever gives him a reason to doubt that, the consequences are not going to be just a lost contract or a bad quarter. We already heard the threat in the Season 2 finale. Galino doesn't make idle comments. Every word that man says means something. And when he looked at Tommy and made that remark, it wasn't a warning you file away and forget about. It was a promise. So as CTT starts to build momentum, as the team starts to find their rhythm, that threat is going to be sitting in the background of every single decision Tommy makes. And that tension is going to be incredible to watch. Because on paper, CTT looks like a dream. Cooper as president, Tommy as vice president, Rebecca handling legal and operations, Nate on the finances, Dale running exploration, Thomas in charge of drilling, and Ariana keeping everything organized on the ground. It's a real team, not just a collection of people, but a group that actually trusts each other and has history together. That's rare in this industry, and Tommy knows it. But knowing it and protecting it are two very different things. Because Season 3 is not going to let CTT just ride off into the sunset. There are going to be problems. There are going to be tests. And the biggest test might not come from Galino or from Cammy or from whatever Monty was hiding in those documents. It might come from within. Because when you put people you love into a business together, when the stakes are this high and the pressure is this intense, relationships crack in ways you never expected. Tommy spent his whole career working for other people, cleaning up other people's messes, protecting other people's interests. Now he's the one with his name on the company. Now he's the one whose decisions affect his son, his family, his future. And that weight is different. That weight changes people. The trailer is already hinting at this. There are moments where Tommy looks less like the calm, confident problem solver we've always known, and more like someone who is starting to feel the edges of something he can't fully control. And that version of Tommy, the one who is scared but won't show it, the one who is calculating every move because one wrong step could bring everything down, that is the most dangerous and the most interesting version of this character we've ever seen. Add to that the Cooper situation, because let's not forget that Cooper is in this now. Not as a side character, not as Tommy's kid who shows up occasionally, as the president of CTT. And while that's exciting, it also means that if something goes wrong, if someone decides to use Cooper as leverage against Tommy, we are going to see a side of Tommy that this show has only teased at so far. The protective father instinct in Tommy is real, and it is fierce. And Season 3 looks like it's going to push that instinct to its absolute limit. This is the part that I genuinely cannot stop thinking about. Those documents, the ones with no electronic record, the ones that Monty, a man who ran a major oil company and knew exactly how to cover his tracks, felt the need to hide so carefully that even his own wife didn't know they existed until after his death. That level of secrecy doesn't happen over something small. That doesn't happen over a bad deal or a minor legal issue or something that could be explained away with a phone call to a lawyer. Whatever Monty hid in those papers, it was big enough that he decided the safest thing to do was keep it completely off the grid. And now, Cammy has found them, and Nate told her to dig. And based on what we're seeing in the trailer, what she found when she dug is something that has shaken her to her core. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because if those documents are dangerous enough to send Cammy running back to Tommy, then they're dangerous enough to affect CTT too. Think about it. Tommy worked for Monty. Tommy was inside MTEX for years. If Monty was hiding something that big, there is a real possibility that it touches people and situations that Tommy is directly connected to. Which means that whatever secret Cammy is sitting on, it's not just her problem. It could blow back on Tommy, on Cooper, on CTT, on everything they just built. And that creates this incredible dynamic where Cammy needs Tommy's help, but helping her might put his own company at risk. That's not a simple choice. That's not a situation where Tommy can just do the right thing and walk away clean. Every option in that scenario has a cost. And the trailer seems to be setting up that impossible choice right from episode 1. There's also the question of what Monty knew about Galino. Because we've established that Galino is not a simple man. He's someone who plays long games, who makes investments that aren't always just about money, who keeps his real intentions close and his smile ready. If Monty had documents about Galino, documents that were dangerous enough to hide completely, that changes everything about CTT's situation. Because Tommy just took $44 million from a man who might have a secret history with his former boss. And if that history is as dark as those hidden documents suggest, Tommy is not just running a company anymore. He's standing in the middle of something that was set in motion long before he ever shook Galino's hand. I think Season 3 is going to use those documents to connect all of these storylines in a way that makes the whole season feel like one long, tightly wound thread that keeps getting pulled tighter. Cammy's desperation, Tommy's new empire, Galino's threat, Cooper's exposure, all of it is going to trace back to what Monty was hiding. And when it finally comes out, and it will come out because it always does in this show, it's going to hit everyone at the same time and change the game completely. Let's get into the actual moment, because the trailer gives us enough to really dig into this. Cammy going to Tommy is not just a plot point. It's a complete reversal of everything that Season 2 established. This is a woman who fired him, who dismissed him, who, after years of Tommy being the backbone of that company, decided that she knew better and showed him the door. And Tommy, to his credit, didn't beg. He didn't make a scene. He took that moment, absorbed it, and turned it into the fuel that built CTT. So when Cammy comes to him now, when she's the one sitting across from him needing something, that dynamic is electric. Because Tommy is not the kind of man who is going to rub it in her face. That's not who he is. But he's also not naive. He knows why she's there. He knows that whatever she's bringing to him is complicated and dangerous and probably tied to those documents. And he has to weigh what helping her costs against what turning her away means. Because here's the thing, and this is what makes this scene so layered. Tommy actually cared about Cammy. Not in a way that was ever inappropriate, but in the way that you care about someone who is connected to a person you respected deeply. Monty mattered to Tommy, and by extension, Cammy mattered. Watching her destroy herself over the course of Season 2 wasn't satisfying for Tommy the way some people might think. It was painful, because he could see exactly where she was headed and he couldn't stop it. And now she's here, in front of him, finally ready to hear what he's been trying to say for a long time. But the situation is so much messier now than it ever needed to be. Nate is going to be a huge factor in this confrontation too, because Nate is the bridge between both worlds. He knows Cammy, he knows Tommy, he knows the history of MTechs, and he knows what those documents might mean. When Cammy called him after firing Tommy and he refused the job offer, that wasn't just loyalty. That was Nate drawing a line and telling Cammy exactly where he stood. And now that he's part of CTT, his position in this confrontation is complicated in the best possible way. Does he advocate for Cammy? Does he warn Tommy? Does he stay out of it entirely and let the two of them work it out? However it plays out, Nate being in the room, even figuratively, adds a whole layer of history and weight to every word that gets said. And then there's Rebecca. Because Rebecca, as COO and Chief Counsel, means that any deal, any agreement, any decision to help Cammy or engage with whatever she's bringing would have to go through her. And Rebecca is sharp. She's not going to let sentiment cloud her judgment about what's good for CTT. So even if Tommy wants to help, even if his instincts tell him to hear Cammy out, Rebecca is going to be the voice that asks the hard questions. What does this cost us? What are we getting into? Is this worth the risk? That tension between Tommy's instinct to do right by people and Rebecca's instinct to protect the company is going to define a lot of Season 3. And this confrontation with Cammy is where it starts. So where does all of this leave us going into Season 3? Honestly, it leaves us in the most exciting place this show has ever been. Because for the first time, the stakes are personal for everyone. This isn't Tommy cleaning up someone else's mess. This isn't Cammy trying to fill her husband's shoes. This is two people who both have everything to lose, going head to head in an industry that doesn't forgive mistakes, with secrets buried underneath both of their feet. CTT is going to face its first real test early, and I don't think it's going to be pretty. Galino's money comes with expectations, and the moment CTT shows any sign of weakness, any hesitation, any crack in that confident exterior they walked in with, Galino is going to notice. And when Galino notices something, he doesn't just watch, he acts. That threat from the finale was not decoration. It was the Season 3 story engine, and it's already running. Tommy's relationship with Cooper is also going to be tested in ways we haven't seen before. Cooper is young, he's eager, and he's now the president of a company that his father built on the back of his entire career. That's an enormous amount of pressure for a young man, and pressure like that either forges you or breaks you. I think Season 3 is going to show us both sides of Cooper. The version that rises to the moment, and the version that makes the kind of mistake that only someone young and hungry makes. And when that mistake happens, Tommy is going to have to choose between protecting his son and protecting everything they built together. That choice is not going to be easy, and it's not going to be clean. Now about Cammy. Even after this confrontation with Tommy, even after whatever happens when she puts those documents on the table, I don't think her story is over. I actually think Season 3 might be where Cammy finally becomes the character she was always meant to be. Not Monty's widow, not the woman who broke a great team, but someone who has hit absolute rock bottom, looked at the damage she caused, and decided to actually change. Whether Tommy gives her a lifeline or not, whether M-Tech survives or gets swallowed up by CTT, Cammy's arc this season is going to be about what she does when there's nothing left to hide behind. And that's the most interesting she's ever been as a character. The release date is still lining up for fall 2026, based on everything Sam Elliott has confirmed about filming, starting around April or May. And if Season 3 delivers on even half of what this trailer is setting up, it's going to be the best season yet. The pieces are all in place. The secrets are about to surface. Tommy didn't come to play, and Cammy is finally starting to understand exactly what that means. Don't forget to follow for more Landman content, and check the video on the screen because there's a lot more where this came from.